Hey guys, this is Carmen Marie with the new Happy Me TV. Welcome to the show. Today I am going to be talking about a book that I am reading and I'm absolutely devouring. I don't know why I waited so long to read it. I want to tell you all about it, and I want to hopefully impart some of that wisdom into you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to do some of the things that Dr. John Demartini suggests in his book, The Breakthough Experience. I have it on Kindle edition. I have it on my phone. I'm just going to show you what the cover looks like, just for you to have an idea. This is what the cover looks like. I'm hoping that you're seeing it without any glare. The Breakthrough Experience. What I noticed first of all is that I have been talking a lot about positivity for a few years. I've been talking about taking responsibility. I've been talking about embracing challenges because they always come with a silver lining. And most of all, one of the biggest words that I've been using is gratitude. And I always link it to love of oneself, love of others, love of life, love of and embracing of the challenges and the experiences of life. And what I found absolutely fascinating is that that's exactly what Dr. Demartini is talking about in his book, The Breakthrough Experience. I actually loved myself. I gave myself those kudos, celebrating the fact that I have gained a lot of that wisdom on my own through my own experiences. Yet by reading the book, I am gaining so much more. I am learning so much more about what Dr. Demartini has experienced himself, has learned himself through his own personal experience, and has seen himself through the workshops and the conferences that he has given, where there is a lot of close interaction with participants who deal with a lot of the things that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. We deal with a lot of challenges. And here he is talking about a way, a very easy, very straightforward, experiential type of way to embrace challenges, to understand why they're there in the first place, in order to also see the other side of the coin, where there are challenges, there are also a lot of great things that we often miss and that we often take for granted. And so he has a special technique that he uses. He calls them, I wrote these things down just to be sure that I'm giving you the right information. He calls it the quantum collapse process. That's what he uses. And basically what he's doing is that he is making sure that if you are experiencing negative, if that's what your interpretation is of your experience, if it's all negative, that you talk about the negative, you pinpoint what those negatives are, and then you see on the other side what that represents in your experience, what how you may have been experiencing those negatives in yourself, how your negative has been transposed into what you're attracting on the outside, and again on beyond that as well, how those negatives are actually helping you, are benefits to you, are positives to you. Because what ends up happening is that, and the way he explains it in the book, is that everything follows divine order. Everything follows this universal law that everything cancels each other out, everything neutralizes each other. There's no positive and negative. When there's a positive and negative, that's when we notice the duality. That's when we notice that there's something off. And we generally notice the negatives. We don't notice the positives. We'll notice the negatives, and they'll be highlighted in our experiences. So that's how we will be dissatisfied. That's how we will want to create change in our lives. But when we look at the universal law of this neutrality of things, of the positive and the negative always coming together to make a neutral ground. We realize that everything just is. Everything is good the way it is, and there's a very good reason why things are like that. There's a lot of examples that he gives, and I'm hoping that I'm explaining it well to you. It really makes sense in my head, and I want to make sure that it makes sense for you. There are a few examples that he mentions. One of the ones that really stood out for me that I often hear about, and I have experienced myself as well. I see my mother going through some of these things, and I see a lot of my friends going through relationship issues. And so in relationship, and especially because I have had a history of abuse, I have studied the dynamic of abuse, and I understand what Dr. Demartini talks about when he says that when there's repeated abuse, we have to look at what that negative is and what we are doing to contribute to that, because where there's a negative, there's also a gain somewhere. And so in the case of abuse, and I've said this before, not to say that abuse should be excused in any way. No type of violence should be excused. However, in the case where a person is constantly abused, and I know this for myself because I've had issues in my marriage, but I've had also issues in other relationships as well, whether personal or professional as well. So what ends up happening is that there is that abuse. I'm attracting that kind of abuse from the outside. It doesn't have to be physical. Sometimes it's just verbal or emotional. And I make myself the victim, but I turn around, and that victim mode allows me to gain something else from the other side. I gain support, I gain sympathy, empathy, whatever it may be, but there's that positive and negative duality always at work. And until I understand what's happening and bring them together and understand that ultimately this is a challenge that I needed to learn from, that I needed to grow with, then I'm never going to get out of that cycle. And it's very, very important. And this is how we take responsibility for our own life. This is something that I talked about in my book, I Will Not Forgive, as well. When we take responsibility of our own life and we realize why certain things are happening, why certain things are happening on a recurrent basis, and what I can do by noticing what it is by analyzing what's happening, what I can do to shift that. Dr. Demartini does a great job, an amazing job at explaining the dynamic behind it and allowing the person to take responsibility and to see what the negative is exactly and what the positives may be. And beyond that, now he gives an example of a woman who had been abused, who had been raped, and she ended up becoming a gynecologist whose specialty was rape victims, and she became an expert in that. So that now became a huge positive in her life. So where that, and that's one thing also, the bigger the negative, the bigger the positive as well, because they will always come together to neutralize each other. And that is where the beauty comes out. That's where love comes out. That's where embracing our experiences comes out. And I believe, and I think he alludes to this to some extent, that's where heaven really is. It's in experiencing the beauty of life the way it is meant to be experienced. And so the bigger the negative, there's also a big positive to neutralize it. So in this case, a rape victim was able to save so many lives or help so many lives by becoming a gynecologist and an expert in rape. He also gives a lot more trivial type of examples for relationships between husband and wife, and he gives his own example as well, where it is very easy to complain about the negatives of the spouse, but there's also the positive side. There may be a lot of negatives, but what are the positives based on those negatives? What I may consider as a negative, how is that actually producing something that is very positive to me that I have been taking for granted? So again, there's the negative and there's the positive, and bringing them together, I can notice, I can realize and acknowledge that there is love, there is a possibility to embrace the experience and the challenge, because there is a very, very good part in that, and a lot of those challenges will produce those positive results. And so, and any kind of challenge that we may encounter, being able to do that list. I know that I'm going through a very big challenge right now, and I was having a bit of trouble with that. I was trying to embrace the challenge and say, okay, how is this making me a better person? And sometimes it's really very pointy. I mean, you really have to dig hard into and be very honest into how these experiences are producing positive results. There's one thing that I found very funny in the book, where I don't remember what experience he was talking about, if it was in work or a relationship, but he was talking about something related to some interactions with his wife, where when he is very cocky for certain things, his wife comes and puts in a negative to neutralize that, and because he has put himself up on a pedestal and he's being cocky, she'll bring him down to find that stability. And so there's always that neutralization happening, because when you're cocky, you're really flying on those positives. And when you're flying on those positives, you will end up falling hard if there's a big negative that comes down. Whereas when she neutralizes that, everything is always all good, everything. And he has learned to embrace that, as opposed to saying, oh, I was on cloud 9. And he does mention this. He had a very, very good day. He comes home and his wife just yells at him for whatever, something that he finds silly. But in reality, what's happening is that it's not that she's bringing him down, is that she's neutralizing that. And when we embrace those experiences as always being good, we have a better experience as a whole. He also gives the example of immature or young adult love relationships, where there's always the passionate love, but there's also the passionate fights. So there's that positive and there's that negative, and they always cancel each other out. But unfortunately, what ends up happening, and we see this a lot in later years as well, is that we love, we're infatuated by, we're addicted to the passionate love, but we get stuck in that. And when we have those fights, we forget the love, and we stick on to that fight, that negative emotion, and then we break up. So we have a bad experience of the relationship when we don't bring the two together. When we see the two very separately, our representation of life becomes very skewed, it has that duality that upsets our being, because it's not stable. And so we will have the very high ups and we will have the very violent lows, and it's very challenging to live through life that way. Whereas when you notice the two, when you acknowledge the two and bring them together to neutralize the overall experience, you realize that if you're going to have big highs, you're also going to have very big lows to neutralize the energy. And then when you come to later years, you realize that you don't need the very high highs and the very low lows. All you have to do is bring it together where there's a better balance, and your life experience is much smoother, much more comfortable that way. And you can embrace the small small challenges when you know that there are going to be great benefits that will come at the same time to come together and neutralize that energy. So in my challenges now, what I was trying to look at is maybe, and this is something that I found to be a little more tricky, but and it may happen to you when you have a specific challenge that you're dealing with. A lot of negative things are happening. I think it's very enlightening to write things down, to do a list of all the things that are happening and all the positives that may come from it. Certain challenges may allow you to learn something new, to become a better person, to be a better partner or a better friend as a result. So these are some of the benefits that can come out of some of the challenges. However, there are also some benefits that may come a lot later, and we don't know them yet. Now, this is where it becomes a little more interesting, where I can start embracing the challenges before I even know what the benefits may be. And I know if I understand this universal law, and if I trust it, when I have faith in it, that this universal law will make it such that for every negative, there will be a positive. Even if I don't see it now, that faith allows me to move forward. Somehow a positive is going to come out of it. I don't see it now, but the worse the challenge, the better the positive. And I can deal with that. I can deal with the challenges a lot better. That becomes a huge silver lining for me. And like Dr. Demartini says, it's all about gratitude. It's all about seeing that silver lining, not taking these situations for granted, whether positive or negative, embracing them as a whole and moving forward with love, because ultimately, this is all our life experience, and this is what allows us to keep moving. The entity that stops moving will die. We're meant to move. We're meant to learn. We're meant to grow. And these challenges and these movements are what allow us to learn and grow and move and live the types of experiences that we are meant to live. So just to let you know, I'm loving the book. Go get a copy of the book if you haven't gotten one yet. I have it on Kindle on my iPhone, and I keep reading a few chapters every single day. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm absolutely devouring it because I'm learning a lot more about the universal laws that I kind of had a very, very good idea about already. These are concepts that are true no matter where you come from, and they will ring true to you when you go back and you study some of the experiences that you've had, and you notice that it does really make sense that for every challenge that you've encountered, for every negative that has happened, you have had a positive event that has come neutralize it. And by seeing both, your experience all of a sudden in hindsight becomes so much more so much of a better experience, a more fulfilling experience, a more satisfying experience as a whole. So oh, one last thing that I want to leave you with, and this is something that I've talked about a lot. I really believe that a lot of our illnesses come from this inability to experience life in this way, by taking things for granted, or by not acknowledging what is out there, and especially also by seeing challenges as punishment, by not seeing the positives on the other side, by really concentrating on the challenges and taking those challenges as the types of events that we may have attracted because we deserve that kind of negativity, perhaps, and like I said, as punishment in some ways. And so we bottle that up, we pick up on that negative, we ignore the positive, and that negativity ends up sinking into ourselves, and we become sick. And he does talk about a patient, an AIDS patient, that he was able to support for some time. And there's one statement that he said over and over again, and this is a statement that stuck with me when I read it the first time in the book, and he does repeat it several times in the book. And this is something that I think a lot of people need to hear. If you need to hear it, then maybe this is why you came here to hear this message. If you know others who may need to hear it, go out and say it to other people, friends or family who need to hear this. It will relieve a lot of that pain in them. So I'm going to read it to you just to say it exactly the way he says it in the book. He says, "No matter what I have done or have not done, I am worthy of love." And repeat that over and over again until it sinks in. Because it's huge. It's very important, because it eliminates all the self-punishment, the self-abuse, the self-criticism, because you deserve that love. And because you deserve that love, you will see that that neutrality in these energies allow you to pick up on that love. Everything that happens, negative and positive coming together, produce that light and that love, because that is what is there to allow you to be who you are meant to be. There is no negative, there is no positive. There's just this merging of the two to form that energy that you need, the light, the love that makes you who you are today and allows you to grow into who you will be tomorrow. So no matter what I have done or have not done, I am worthy of love. No matter what I have done or have not done, I am worthy of love. No matter what I have done or have not done, I am worthy of love. And start looking at your experiences in this way. Write them down, take out your journal, and process these experiences in the knowledge of this universal law. You will see how things will just fall into place. And go grab that book, The Breakthough Experience by Dr. John F. Demartini. I hope you liked this show. I hope you like this information. I find the wisdom absolutely fascinating, interesting, and very powerful as well. I hope it does help you, and as it has helped me. And we'll come back next week. Next week, I'm not sure if the show will be on Friday at 10 a.m. The time may change, but you will find out about it. But during the entire week, the show will be available on TheNewHappyMeTV.com. So you can just go there, TheNewHappyMeTV.com, and watch the show that is available to you. If you want to go check out archived shows, you can also check out the category The New Happy Me TV, and you will have a list of all the shows that I have done in the past few months. I love you, I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.